What's going on, y'all? I hope that you're having a wonderful day. My name is Jonathan Yenchen. Thank you for tuning back into yet another video. Today, we're getting to work on installing all of the electrical fixtures that I'm going to need to run my electric water pump. I was gonna do the manual pump sink, and then I realized that in the long run, it's more worth it to just do the extra work, install my electric water pump, and hopefully learn a little bit of electrical stuff along the way. I was studying basic electrical circuits for a few hours the other day, so I think I have an understanding of how to do this. But bear with me, I am no professional electrician here. There's probably gonna be some things that I do that you guys cringe, and hopefully I don't fry myself. So sit back, grab a coffee, grab a beer, grab a kombucha, grab something nice to sip on, and enjoy the video. Alright, let's first show you guys everything that I got. I'm probably missing a couple components, and I am planning to go to the hardware store if need be, but this is what I ordered online. Alright, so this is the water pump I got. It's a Baylite 12-volt water pump. I think it's rated at 1.5 gallons per minute or something like that, which is on the lower side for these, but seeing as I'm only going to be using it for a kitchen faucet and not a shower or anything like that, I think that this will be more than enough power. We got a little toggle switch, some connectors, adapter, thingamabobber fittings. What else do we have? And a 12-volt fuse box that my wiring is going to run into. This is a flexible camper drain, so it's basically the drain tap that the sink is going to drain outside with. And this is actually, whoo, look at that. This is my brand new faucet. What a beaut. And it's, so the cool thing with this is it's a cold water tap, so there's no multiple lines that you need to run because most taps, have a hot and cold water. This is just basically on and off. I'm not gonna have a water heater, so this is going to work perfectly. And I just got a little cheapo crimping set from Harbor Freight. It's got a little bit of connectors as well, so. This is the electrical wiring setup that the camper actually came with. It's kind of a hot mess. It took me quite a while to figure out how they had things rigged up. And essentially the only reason why this thing is here is because the cord on the outside, which is shore power, connects into this, which is basically a converter, and it converts the 110 volt energy into the 12 volt form, which most of my appliances and lighting operates under on this camper. Honestly, I'm probably not going to use shore power that much, so this thing is pretty irrelevant, and I don't know why I'm going to use it, but since it's already set up, I'm not going to mess with it. I'm just going to add, they have this fuse box, but there's no positive and negative terminals that go directly into each of these fuses, so it's really kind of difficult to run appliances directly into here. I think I would have to solder onto the circuit board, I'm not sure. But instead, I'm gonna take some of these wires that aren't in use, a positive, a negative, and I'm gonna run a fuse box right to here, or somewhere in here, and then from the fuse box, it'll be much easier to hook up all my appliances like my water pump and my refrigerator. So let's give this a shot. Here is the fuse box that I got from Amazon. It's got 6 different fuses on it, and it even came with these generic labels, which is pretty cool. So there's been a switch of plans. For some reason, I thought that I was going to be connecting the fuse box to the controller. That's actually not the case. Now I'm going to connect the fuse block directly to the battery. We just went to the hardware store for the 3rd time today and got all of the cables and connectors and all of that fun stuff. So hopefully we could get this to work today. Alright guys, so I haven't been filming much, but that's mainly because I've been trying to figure out how to rig up all of this wiring to make it work. And I think I finally figured it out with the switch here. We got the switch hooked up to the water pump and the fuse block. I'll show you guys a little bit more about how I did this tomorrow, but we're actually about to run out of light, so I just want to show you real quick. Not gonna lie, I'm pretty excited and I'm pretty proud because I was starting to doubt my ability to do this. And I'd like to thank all of those who never gave up on me. I'd like to thank my mom, my dad, my girlfriend, my sister, my dog, my cat. Alright, but on a serious note, today was actually just a test to see if I could figure out how to get the electrical components plugged in and working. So tomorrow I'm actually going to be mounting everything to its final resting place. Obviously, I'm not going to leave this nest of cords out in the open. So tomorrow I'm going to be plugging in the actual water tank into the water pump, mounting everything to its spot, and then hooking that up to the faucet. So hopefully, ideally, we're going to have running water tomorrow. Okay, we're back, and like I said yesterday, today, the goal is to actually install everything, so by the end of the day, hopefully, we should have running water. Okay, but before we actually hop into that, I want to show you guys the setup that I have, how things are connected, and we'll get started with the installation. Alright, I'm going to try my best to explain this. I'm no electrician, like I said earlier, and it took me quite a while to figure this out, which now in hindsight seems like a pretty simple setup, but I figure I might as well show you guys in case any of you need help or, you know. So, basically, we're operating on a 12-volt system here, of course. This is DC power like most of your appliances in any kind of camper van or trailer or anything like that is going to be. The water pump I got is this Baylite 12-volt pump. So what I have is I have the pump. Right now it's connected really close to the fuse block, but I'm obviously going to have this mounted somewhere else and we're going to have longer wires, but this is just a demonstration. So you got your 12-volt pump. This is a 12-volt fuse block. There's 6 different fuses on here. These 2 wires that come off of it, a positive and a negative. I put these little ring terminals on there because the fuse block I'm actually hooking up straight to the battery. I'm not going through that little controller just because I think this simplifies everything. This is 10 gauge wire, so it's, you know, plenty of capacity for the devices that I'm going to be running with this fuse box here. Water pump is basically, I have this 16 gauge wire. Basically, you just run the 16 gauge wire, put a little connector on the end there, and then you connect to the positive side of the fuse block, and then you want to put a negative lead as well for your grounding cable. A little 10 amp fuse goes in the fuse block, and I use a 10 amp because the water pump I believe is 5 amps, so I just did a 10 amp just in case. And I forgot to say, but within the positive cable here, that's where I actually also hooked up my power switch. Okay, so this part right here is actually kind of confusing, and this threw me off for quite a while. I was trying to figure it out. The switch here has 2 wires coming out of it. So my mind was thinking that since this has a positive and a negative wire, this must also have a positive and a negative wire. But the problem is, if you connect these 2 wires to the 2 wires coming out of the pump, then how do you relay the circuit to the fuse, ultimately gaining power? Only after pondering this for so long, I kind of finally came to the realization that these 2 wires coming out of the switch do not act as positive and negative, but rather they're going to be either both positive or both negative, depending on how you want to wire it. And so I'm not the most technical person, so please, if this doesn't make sense, I apologize. From the water pump, I ran a wire, right? I ran 1 wire from the positive side of the power pump, connected the wire that came out of the water pump to one of these wires coming out of the switch, and then the other wire acts as basically a continuation of the circuit, and then you attach another red positive wire that's still part of the positive wire that came out of the pump, and then that leads to the positive side of the terminal, and then the negative side that you haven't touched yet goes straight from your pump to the negative side of the fuse block. Hopefully that makes sense, but that way it's a complete circuit. That's the best that I got. So let's just move on. Now that I showed you guys how I have this set up before I install it, let's just go ahead and start installing things. So I'm gonna run positive and negative cables for the fuse box right out there. Alright, got my fuse box fastened down here. This stuff is being a real pain in the ass to work with since the backbone is so curved. So I'm gonna do a little trick that I found on the good old internet to fix that and make it straight again. As you can see, it is much better now. It has been so long since I have filmed anything that had to do with this guy right here. And the reason is I was trying to figure out how to make it work, but essentially the faucet that I got, this inlet right here, uses compression threads, and I didn't realize that the hose barb that I was trying to connect directly to it uses normal standard pipe threading. So no matter how much plumber's tape I used and how tight I screwed it on, the water kept spraying out and leaking because the threads didn't match. Since this is compression thread meant to be used with one of these compression kind of metal tube valve things, I don't know what it's called, and I needed this to connect to the vinyl tubing instead of a water outlet that a standard house would have this hooked up to. So I had to get this different adapters here, and basically this is a compression to and I adapted that to a normal standard pipe threading, which is a female adapter, and then from that I adapted this 3/8 inch barb to a 1/2 inch female standard pipe adapter thing. Okay, hopefully you followed along with that, but I needed a lot of different parts and adapters, and it took me quite a while to figure that out, like a few days. So we're back now today to actually do the installation, because as you saw, this guy turns on. So now we have running water. Now I just got to finish installing everything in its final spot where it needs to go, and then we're gonna finally be done with the water and move on with our lives. So just to quickly recap my setup here, I have a cold water faucet attached to the countertop. Down below the sink, I have it hooked up with a few adapters here to a 3/8 inch vinyl tube. We have a hose clamp on the barb attachment, of course. That vinyl tubing runs all the way along through my cabinets, attached with these little hose clamp things. And over on this side, we have the vinyl tubing coming in through here, underneath the hole, and this is it. I just have it wrapped in some pipe insulation in hopes of reducing the vibration and the noise. And then that pipe, the vinyl tube, runs all the way through here and into my water pump. Now that tubing gets attached onto the water pump with a little hose clamp here, and then on the other side I have more tubing coming out of this inlet, also attached with a hose clamp, and that runs out here. And ultimately that tubing eventually runs all the way down through here and into my 11-gallon water tank. Quickly, we'll just talk about my 12-volt pump setup. I have that mounted on top of that board of wood wrapped in that rubber neoprene drawer liner stuff. The positive lead goes out, and I'll show you guys where that leads to in a second. But we also have my negative lead, comes out around here and into the little fuse box that I just installed. So here is the fuse box that I installed. As you can see, I only have one fuse currently, which is for the water pump, but I will be hooking up my fridge and maybe a couple other small appliances as well. So I have two positive lead wires running out along here, and I have it wrapped up in this wire wrap. I don't know what this is called actually, but I basically did it just to keep things looking a little bit neater and more tidy. Now both of those wires eventually make their way up here, up along my cabinet, up through these wires and to my little switch rocker here, which controls the water pump. And that is actually going to be it for this video. As you guys could tell, I was kind of a hot mess trying to figure all of this out. I had pretty much no idea what I was doing going into it, and I didn't do enough research. And then when I did do enough research, there was just like all kinds of parts and stuff that wouldn't fit and they wouldn't work, and there was adapt. It was a mess, I know, but the important thing is we got it done, and I'm really happy that I decided to actually figure out how to do the electric water pump. It will definitely be very nice to have running water. Now that being said, I do have the manual pump rocker faucet thing still attached. I didn't want to take it out because there's already a hole there. So I think what I'm gonna do is also put a 5-gallon jug of fresh water underneath the sink, and the manual pump sink will still be able to be used. The good thing about that is that one is silent, so if I ever am in an area where I don't want to be loud, I could just use that instead, and I think I could put like actual fresh drinking water in it, so I can get fresh drinking water from that faucet if need be. Alright, and before I wrap things up, I just want to let you guys know that this was kind of the last big project that I had on the camper, which is really exciting. I think this week I'm actually going to be putting it back into the truck and finishing up all the little final touches. So the next video you see about the renovation will be like all of the last little final details that I'm going to be doing in preparation to hit the road and live in it full time. It's been so much longer than I would have liked, but finally we're at that point where I'm going to be living in it, and I'm really excited, and I hope that you guys are excited to see the many adventures that are yet to come. With that, I'm going to end the video here. Thank you, like always, for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Maybe even consider subscribing. You guys go out there and go on some adventures of your own. Live life, beat the status quo. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video.